guys, we are super excited about Magic's new set, Tarkir Dragonstorm. We got a lot of new cards revealed, and the one that grabbed our attention the most was Betor, Kin to All. Betor is a 5-mana Abzan commander, 5/7 flying dragon with. At the beginning of your end step, if creatures you control have total toughness 10 or greater, draw a card. Then, if creatures you control have total toughness 20 or greater, untap each creature you control. If creatures you control have total toughness 40 or greater, each opponent loses half their life, rounded up. This commander does it all. It's a huge monster, there is not that much mana for his ability, and he also offers card draw, the ability for you to be offensive and keep your creatures untapped, and also a win condition with his last trigger. In its essence, this dragon and one of the new Abzan face commander, Felotar the Steadfast, are new updated versions of the beloved Doran the Siege Tower. This means some of the cards you are going to check in our list are cards that used to be played in Doran's deck lists, so without any delays, let's start talking creatures. On this first section, we are going to talk about creatures that allow us to attack with toughness. Ancient Lumberknot, Bedrock Tortoise, and the classic Doran the Siege Tower. Bedrock Tortoise is good because it also protects our board during our turn, giving our creatures X-proof. Doran is the original commander of this archetype of deck, and his ability has something unique as it makes it so all creatures deal combat damage with toughness, not only our creatures. Next, we are going to talk about some creatures that are here simply for the fact that they have big toughness. Indomitable Ancients and Unhallowed Phalanx are the best examples of this, and they don't bring any value to the board in terms of abilities. However, with this type of creatures on the board, our commander can trigger his abilities very fast. Since is the case, you will see creatures that normally don't have a home in other decks, or worst versions of some commander staples that are here because of their toughness, like Overgrown Zealot, a mana dork with 4 toughness. That's all he does, as we don't care for his last ability. We also run Tree of Perdition and Tree of Redemption. 0-13 with our commander makes it so you automatically have 20 toughness on the board, making them great additions to the deck. Another great card in this deck is Trostani Selesnya's Voice. He's not here to give us tokens, however, the first ability will make us gain an amazing amount of life in this deck, just like Ikra Siddiqui, the Usurper. Abzan in nature is very grindy and defensive, so some incidental life gain seems right for this color combination. Welcoming Vampire has great synergy with the majority of our creatures, as they don't have that much power and can give us some extra cards. And speaking of card draw, we also have Ulvenwald Observer, another Toughness Matters card. We have a lot of creatures in this deck that you can check on the full deck list down below. However, we would like to mention 3 bombastic creatures that we are running. First is Mossbridge Troll, a creature that by itself can gain +20/+20. As the card reads, tap any number of untapped creatures you control. Other than this creature with total power 10 or greater, this creature gets +20/+20 until end of turn. This can be very explosive and bring us to 40 very fast, allowing us to drain half our opponent's life out of nowhere. Second, we have Tireless Tribe, a simple 1 mana 1/1 with the ability discard a card. This creature gets +0/+4 until end of turn. Depending on the number of cards we have in hand, this can be the worst card in the deck or a win condition. And lastly, Felotar the Steadfast, the new Abzan Precon face commander, giving us an insane amount of draw along with the ability to attack with defenders and toughness. It may seem repetitive, but this deck requires a good amount of redundancy in order to work, as this card is also greatly statted for this deck. For Sorceries and Instants, besides some usual ramp cards, we also have some board wipes that play well with our deck, like Wave of Reckoning, a 5-mana white sorcery with each creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. The majority of our creatures will not be destroyed when this is cast, as they have a toughness greater than their power. Slaughter the Strong may remove our commander from the board, but we will be able to retain the majority of our creatures. So even though it doesn't look great at first, it's still a great card for just 3 mana. And if you decide to use Felotar the Steadfast as a commander instead, even better. Last March of the Ants is also an amazing card in every deck, but in this deck in particular, even better, allowing us to draw a lot of cards, fill our board with creatures that will allow us to trigger our commander at the end of the turn. Tower Defense and Solidarity are tricks that we can also use to push our creature's toughness over the threshold our commander imposes in order to trigger his abilities. Like some of the cards in this deck, these are cards that never really had a home, but now they do. Artifacts. We don't run that many artifacts besides the usual mana rocks. This said, we would like to mention two special artifacts in this deck. One is Slagworm Armor, a very cheap card that allows us to boost +0/+6 for a very low mana cost. Great to trigger our commander. More importantly, we also have Meekstone, a very old 1 mana artifact with creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap during their controller's untap steps. This card is not here for you to make friends, and normally would be bad in a deck with a commander that has 3 or more power. However, since our commander allows us to untap our creatures at the end of the turn, if we have 20 or more toughness on the board, our commander negates the downside of this card, allowing us to control the board almost by itself. Enchantments. Assault Formation, a 2 mana Doran effect enchantment that also boosts our defensive capabilities and helps our commander trigger his abilities at the end of the turn. Stone Skin, a 3 mana enchantment with flash that gives us +10 extra toughness. Behind the Scenes also boosts our creatures. However, this card also gives us access to Skulk, a very rare ability that makes it so our creatures cannot be blocked by creatures with greater power. When you have a deck full of creatures that have low power, this card becomes very good. Lastly, we are going to talk about combos. Because our commander Betor makes our opponents lose half of their life at the end of the turn if we have 40 or more toughness on the board, there are 2 cards that can be considered 2-card combos that are not really 2-card combos, as you still need the 40 toughness on the board to trigger this. The cards in question are either Betor plus Bloodletter of Alclassos, allowing us to one-shot our opponents at the end of the turn, as Bloodletter reads: if an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life instead, making them lose the other half after our commander triggers. And the other card that can combo with Betor is Wound Reflection, for the same reasons. A little bit more on the expensive side, as this costs 6 mana, but still does the trick. Following the new commander brackets that are still in beta, we would consider this deck a 2, as we decided not to run any game changers in order to build the deck. But if you want to buff this deck, running a few of those cards would do the trick. Hope you enjoyed our deck list, and as always, if you want to take a look at the full deck list, we will leave it on the description below. We want to hear your opinion and what cards would you add to the deck. We have a Ko-fi, so if you would like to support the channel, and as always, thank you so much and see you next time!